This is a stage 19 review. I gave you a stage 19 guide just like this one. Basically goes over the things that you need to know for the test. For example, conjugation of tenses of verbs. Conjugation should be and tenses of verbs. So first, let's look at what makes something a conjugation. You can see here that I have ARE, that is a first conjugation. ERE is a second conjugation if it has a macron. ERE with no macron is third. IRE is fourth. I gave you present tense because I want to show you something. I want you to look at these and tell me what lets you know, based off of amat, dokit, dukit, and audit, what gives you a hint as to what conjugation it belongs to. The answer is the vowel that's used. I can see that the A in amat, it's probably going to be first conjugation. The E in doket tells me it's going to be second conjugation. The I in dukit and audit tells me it's going to be third or fourth. Can't look at the I and tell you which one it's going to be, but I know it's not going to be first or second. I also laid out here a perfect of each one of these. Amawit, dukuit, duksit, and audiwit. What allows me to tell, oh wow, that's perfect. That's perfect tense. Of course, here we have to go with our clues, our S, U, V, or X. Here in Amawit, I have a V. Dokuit, I have a U. Duksit, I have an X. And Audiwit, I have a V. Notice the position of these. They are right next to the ending IT. If it happens before that, for example, in Duksit, I have a U before the X. That doesn't count. It has to be next to the IT. The only time it would go beyond that is if it had a macron over that final vowel. So be sure that you refamiliarize yourself with conjugations, ARE, long mark over the ERE, ERE, and IRE as the first, second, third, and fourth conjugations. Also, familiarize yourself with the AT, the ET, the IT to determine whether or not it's first, second, or third conjugation. I realize that this right here is a massive chart that we have been working on in order to help us with tenses and with translations. I gave you an example in green. You see amat, amabat, amawit, and amaweret. These are three tenses, present, imperfect, or four tenses, present, imperfect, perfect, and pluperfect. Those are in the right position. I also gave you the translations: he loves, he was loving, he loved, and he had loved in green on the right-hand side. If you look under present, present does not have a marker. It does not have a clue. So that's how I know by looking at a word amat. I know it's present tense because there is no marker, there is no clue. It's present tense. He loves. The imperfect is I'm looking for the marker BA or an ERA. Now that ERA is only for sum words like possum or sum or odsum, insum, etc. This one, amabat, has BA, so it does have a marker. Does it have a clue, an S, U, V, X, or macron? The answer is no. So it is imperfect tense. He was loving. Perfect tense, amawit. Does it have a marker? No, it does not have a BA or an ERA, but it does have a clue, the V. The V in amawit. So S, U, V, or X, or macron, yes, it does have a clue, so it's he loved. If it has both, a clue and a marker, like an amaweret, it has a clue in V, it has a marker in ERA, it is pluperfect. He had loved. Make sure that if I give you any verb, that you can translate it and tell me what tense it belongs to. If you just remember this, no marker, no clue, present. Marker, no clue is imperfect. No marker and a clue is perfect. Both is pluperfect. So just using the information in blue can really help you determine what tense it is. Now there's only a couple on the test that ask you what tense a verb is, but it's still worth looking at. Next, I have antecedents of pronouns. An antecedent is the word that the pronoun is replacing. In these two sentences, I am using a relative pronoun, and you would be asked to tell me what the antecedent of those relative pronouns are. First of all, identify the two relative pronouns. Two relative pronouns here are qui and quas. In puer qui vides, bonus S, translation, the boy who you see. For those of you smarter than me, you know that I messed up. Should be quim. The boy whom you see is a good boy. In this case, quim is the relative pronoun. What is it replacing? That would be the antecedent. It is replacing puer. The antecedent of quim is puer. And the second one's a little tougher because I added some more stuff. I added a preposition in via puellae, quas, vides, ambulat. So in the street, the girls whom you see are walking. In this case, quas is a relative pronoun, and its antecedent is puellae. You're going to have a couple of questions that they're going to give you a relative, and you have to determine what the antecedent is. You're also going to have a couple where they give you a sentence with a blank, and they're going to ask you to choose a form of qui to put in place of the blank. In this case, I have Juvenus blank Galatea moet pompum non vident. If we remember the story, these are the boys could not see the parade. The boys who Galatea moved. I have to decide two things here. In that blank, I'm going to put a qui or a quai or a quote. So I need to make sure that I know the qui, quai, quote, especially the nominative and accusative, the qui, quai, quote, declension. Now, in this one I have Juvenus. Is boys singular or plural? Because qui has to be the same number and the same gender as its antecedent. In this case, Juvenus is plural. So I can exclude all of the singulars. None of those are going to be my answer. Juvenus is also masculine. So I can exclude all of the feminine and all of the neuters. Just by knowing that this is masculine and plural, I have eliminated all but two of the possibilities, qui and quos. Now what I have to do is I have to decide whether or not I am using a nominative or an accusative within that clause. Inside of this clause, I already have a nominative, Galatea, who's doing the moving. So I need an accusative. So my answer would be close. Going through that one more time, let's change Juvenus to something else. Here I changed Juvenus to puella because that singular had to change vidit to vidit. But I need to look at the antecedent puella. If I want to use a qui, quai, or quote, I need to decide what number it is and what gender it is. I can tell the puella is singular, so all of those plurals are gone. I can also tell that it's feminine, so the masculine and the neuters cannot be used. I have eliminated all but two possibilities, which are quai and quam. Once again, I have to ask myself, what is needed inside that clause? We already know that it's going to be accusative because it was earlier. Galatea is already nominative. So I'm going to use quam because that's the accusative form I need. Now, if I change the structure of the clause that I'm putting the qui, quai, quote in, like I have here, I've changed Galatea to puerum. That changes everything up. Again, puella is singular and feminine, so I've eliminated all of the plurals, I've eliminated all the masculines and all of the neuters. I still have two possibilities. However, in this case, puerum is accusative, so I already have a direct object. I would have to use quai in this case, the nominative. The accusative is right here. I already have it. Get rid of the accusative. That leaves me with quai. Cases of nouns, especially being able to determine the nominative and the vocative. We took that big noun chart, or that big ending chart. That's what we're going to be using. Grammatical uses of cases are important as well. Here's a list of things that nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and ablative can be used grammatically. The nominative is a subject. It can also be used as a predicate nominative or predicate adjective if it has a linking verb. Genitive is going to be possession. We translate that as of. Dative is mostly going to be the indirect object. Remember, with some special verb constructions, it can be used as the direct object. Remember, necesse est, it is necessary, plus the dative for you. Accusative is a direct object, can be the object of a preposition, and ablative is the object of a preposition. Here's an example of each one of those in use. If you would, please read through these sentences and try to identify the case of each word and its grammatical function. In the first one, quintus est quibus. Quintus is the subject, est is the linking verb. When I have a linking verb, Killis now becomes a predicate nominative. It is nominative, it is singular, it is masculine, but it's a predicate nominative because it is referring back to Quintus. Using est, when I use those est words, when I use those sum words, I'm going to have nominatives on both sides. If Killis were an adjective, for example, bonus, Quintus is good, it would be a predicate adjective. But Killis is a noun, so it's predicate nominative. Domum is accusative, and ad domum, it is an accusative because it is the object of the preposition ad. Puer, nominative, being used as a subject. Puellam, this is also accusative, no preposition with it, so it's going to be the direct object. Portawid is our verb. Translation, the boy carried the girl to the house. Last one here, we have Philius, that's nominative, it is being used as a subject. Caecilii is genitive, it is going back to Philius, the son of Caecilius. In aria is ablative because it is being used with the preposition in. And then we have est is our linking verb. Translation, the son of Caecilius is in the threshing area or the courtyard. I did leave out the dative. Let me go do one of those. Here I have Domitia as my subject. I have Marito, that is our dative as an indirect object. So I have Domitia gave a gift, that's accusative direct object, donum, to her husband, that is the dative indirect object. This is the dative being used with special verbs or special verb constructions. Anytime I get an necesse est or decorum est, I'm going to use the dative. Necesse est tibi ire. It is necessary for you to go. Tibi is dative. Decorum est puellae cantare. It is fitting for the girl to sing. Puellae is dative. Caecilius favors the boy. Here we would expect to get an accusative puerum, but we don't. We get the dative puero because favio takes the dative. So those are the special ways to use the dative. Next we have the ego to pronoun usage. Those pronoun usages look like this. We have om. If it's perfect, it would be the letter I. They will use ego as their pronoun. If it ends in s, or isti if it's perfect, we would use to as its pronoun. Moose uses nos. Peace uses wos. The T and the NT, those use those is. Don't worry about those. You should be able to look at these guys right here and decide whether or not you're going to use to, ego, nos, or wos. So go through theirs and see if you can figure out which ones you would use. Should have came up with Wewis is to, that ends in s, so I'm going to use to. Dono ends in o, so I'm going to use ego. Dedi ends in I, I'm going to use ego. When nisti ends in isti, I'm going to use to. Amatis ends in tis, I'm going to use wos. Next, we have positive, comparative, superlative adjectives and what they modify. For those, we've done this 1,000 times. Hopefully, just kind of short review. Like is positive, nothing there. Comparative, IOR. Superlative, double S, double L, or double R. Next, we have identification of imperative versus the infinitive. And I mean imperative phrases versus infinitive phrases, because sometimes we use the infinitive with the imperative. So here I have imperative or infinitive statement, noli currera, spectare, voca, and posse. The first one, noli is an imperative. I don't care, after I've identified the imperative noli, I don't care that there is also an infinitive. This is an imperative statement, so this will be imperative. Spectare is an infinitive. Voca is an imperative, and posse is an infinitive. This is from our essa, like essa would be an infinitive. Here I have two infinitives, spectare and vocare. I want to show you how to turn those into imperatives. If I take off the RE, now I'm left with two imperatives. If I add TE, I have plural imperative. So specta is watch, spectate is you all understood watch. Next, I have imperative use and identification of vocative, singular, and plural. This is bold for a reason. We went over it on our quiz for a reason, as well as the vocative forms. Can I choose the correct imperative form with respect to its vocative and vice versa? Also, very important is the hic and illa forms and case usage for each one. Can I choose which form to use in a sentence? Most of them are hic. The big section on here is, do I know what form of hic to use? Let's start off by choosing the correct imperative to go with its vocative or the correct vocative to go with the imperative. This is from our practice quiz. The scipulae is plural. I want to choose the plural imperative to go with the scipulae. That would be tacite. You do the rest and see if you can do a good job with these. Okay, here are your answers, and I've highlighted the decision makers, the things that I saw that made me choose what I chose. The scipuli, the letter I makes it plural, so I chose the tacite. The te is going to go with the plural. Same thing with omnes, it's plural, so I use amate. Canis is not a plural, it's a singular, so I choose the singular sede, no te. Next I have aperi, it's just an I, there is no plural, so I choose serve. I choose serve anyway. Next one is cure. There is no te, it is singular, so I chose the singular latre. Number 6, amate, I chose 2. That's wrong. I should have chose wos because te is plural and wos is the plural form. Audi, there is no te, so I'm going to choose sexte. Puelli is plural, ae, so I'm going to choose the te form, wenite. Puer is singular, so off my game today. Ambula is the singular form. And then wenes is plural, so I would choose the te form, the date. This is a huge part of your exam. We'll just go over the ones that you had for your quiz. Okay, here, same thing. I changed things around a little bit. Go through and see if you can tell whether to use the singular and plural imperative or the singular or plural vocative. Here I've highlighted all of my decision makers, the us and the scipulus, omnes, canis, the I in aperi, the e in cura, the a in ama, the audi, the a in puella, the I in pueri, and the is in uenus. That tells me whether it's singular or plural. That way I can decide whether or not to choose singular or plural on the right-hand side. Okay, number 1, us is singular, so I choose the singular take. The plural would be takite. I've highlighted all the te's, those make it plural. Omnes is plural, so I choose amate, the plural form. Canis is plural, so I use sedete, the plural form. Aperi is singular, so I use serve. Cure is singular, I choose the singular puella form. Ama is singular, so I choose 2, which is singular. Audi is singular, so I choose sexte. In between the sextus and sexte, you're going to choose sexte because sextus is nominative and not vocative. Number 8, puella is singular, so I choose the singular veni. Number 9, pueri is plural, so I choose the plural ambulate. And then uenus is singular, so I choose the singular da. If it's plural, you're going to use the te at the end. If it's singular, you're not going to use the te at the end. Here I'm asking you, I left you a blank, and I want you to choose which heek form to use. All of them are heek on the test. I think there's maybe 2 that are illa, but all of them are heek on the test. That's the focus. So looking at these 3 with the blanks, choose which heek word you would use in that sentence. Here I gave you a short chart to use for the nominative and accusative forms of heek. Those are the ones you're mostly going to use. Doesn't have to be it, but mostly you're going to use those. So looking at the first one, femina es galatea, I'm going to use femina. That is singular, it is feminine, it is nominative. So I look over on the right-hand side, the singular feminine nominative form is hike. The next one I have horea sunt maxima. Horea is neuter, it is plural. I look at the neuter plural form, it is hike. Next one is rosae. It is plural, it is nominative, it is feminine. The plural nominative feminine is high. There are 10 of these that are going to be asking you these blanks. They're going to put these blanks in here, and you're going to have to determine what noun it's going to modify. It's going to modify the noun after it, and then you're going to have to decide what case number and gender that noun is, and you're going to have to pick the same case number and gender of the heek form in order to get those right. We did this on our quizzes. Here I have uenus, blank puellas, and I need to choose a form of heek. It's going to modify the word after the blank. That would be puellas. It is singular, or sorry, it's plural and accusative and feminine. The plural accusative form of the feminine, heek, is has. Okay, here are my answers to this. The key to this, guys, is looking at the word after the blank. Don't let, like on number 3, Helena comes before. I have to modify Helena. No. With heek and illa, it comes after. So for number 2, weir comes after the blank, so that's what I needed to modify. Weir is nominative singular and masculine. The nominative singular masculine form is heek. Number 3, the word that comes after the blank is wirum, so I need an accusative singular masculine form of heek. That would be hunk. Number 4, donum comes after the blank, so I need a nominative neuter form, singular neuter form, and that would be illid. And Uranus is nominative, it is singular, it is masculine. The nominative singular masculine form of illa is illa. These are the ones that were on your quiz. Look at those blanks and see if you can figure out what they should be. Basically the same thing here. Viros comes after the blank, so I need an accusative plural. Hos is my accusative plural masculine. Weir comes after the blank, so I'm going to use heek because they are both nominative singular masculine. Uanum is accusative masculine singular. Hunk is the one that I'm going to choose. Donum, same thing as the last time. I have a nominative neuter singular, so I choose elude. Puella is nominative, it is singular, it is feminine, so I choose ela. One of the other things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to look at a word and decide whether or not it is vocative, nominative, or whether it could be both. So here I gave you 9 words. Think about the endings on those ending quizzes that we took and decide whether or not it is nominative, vocative, or whether it could be used as both. Mark A can only be used as vocative. That E is only going to be used as vocative. Pueri could be used as both. Barbilus can be nominative. Puella can be nominative or vocative. Sextus can only be nominative. Remember, I've seen sextae. Reges can be both because it's not. The only ones that are really going to be a trick are the ones that end in E and US. Filii is both, could be either one. Nauta could be either one. And Domitia could be either one, vocative or nominative. So the ones that are tricky are going to be the ones that are us and the ones that are E. You have to remember the words that we've seen end in E are like sextus becomes sextae, Marcus becomes Mark-A, Servus became Serway. Those are the ones that are a little bit tricky. And I know there's a tough, and there's no method to the madness. They change from US to E sometimes because it's Latin. English vocab. Vexatious is something that is annoying. Curative is something that is healing. Vivacious is something that's very lively. Vociferous is something that is very noisy, coming from loco. Itinerant is something that's traveling. Amity is friendship. Perilous is dangerous. Castigation, remember that is public humiliation or severe criticism. Negligent is something that is careless. If you're negligent, you're being careless. Dulcet is something that is sweet. Latin vocab that I put up here, they're going to be used just like they have been in the past. Antonyms, synonyms, what goes with what. They do have a different one on this one. They're going to give you a list of words and ask you which one does not belong. For example, if I gave you mother, father, daughter, etc., you would have to, those are all family members. So if I gave you mother, daughter, father, family member, and gate, you would choose gate because it's not a family member. So like these right here, if I said, hey, which one of these doesn't belong, you would choose portus because, well, filii is son, mater is mother, familiaris is family, and portus is gate, and pater is father. Portus is not a family member. That's the one you choose. There are a couple of those. I think there's 5 of those on this test where they're going to give you a list of words, and you have to choose which one doesn't belong. So here's a list of the word passes. Paucissimi is very few. Coepius begins. Silentium is silence. Filii is daughter. Confeci is to finish. Laudavi is to praise. Sanitas is a sound. Filii is sons. Polarimu is many. Mater is mother. Familiaris is family members. Portus is a gate. Pater is a father. Praesidium is protection. Paste is a foot. Caput is a head. Manus is a hand. Humerus is a shoulder. Castigare is to publicly humiliate. Punire is to punish. Cogitare is to think. Vexare is to annoy. Deridere is to make fun of. Adire is to hear. Walks is a sound. Sonitus is a sound. Clamare is to shout. Tenere is to hold. What was the Roman name for Isis? That would have been Serapis. Where and when was the festival of Isis? Festival of Isis began in March, I think it was March 5th, where obviously it was held in Egypt. In what countries was Isis worshipped? Well, she started in Egypt and then moved throughout the Roman Empire, so many other countries. How did Egyptians feel about Isis? Very, very important was the goddess Isis. She was, in fact, their oldest and most important goddess. The powers and benefits associated with Isis worship: women were given equal rights, pretty much, or equal power with the men. That was one power or benefit. Another one was it gave them a hope of life after death. This is really not typical of Roman gods and goddesses. We see how heroes typically were able to defeat death in some way and were thrown into the stars. But as far as an actual life after death or a being after death, Isis offered that to them. What other events were associated with the festival of Isis? That would have been the opening of sailing season. Remember, grain coming from Rome was very, very important. So for them to start this festival with the opening of sailing season and how closely it was related to that, that's no reason. It is no wonder why the Romans didn't attach themselves to Isis. What was the Pampa like, or the parade like? Well, it was a spring festival, so it was very, very loud. I'm sure they had lots of flowers and things like that going on. Everyone pretty much in the city was taking part in it. The path of it was from the middle of the city. They traveled through throughout the city to the port. Remember, they had the statue going through to the port. They put it on a boat and all that stuff. What happened after the procession? When the procession ended, they would take the ship that they loaded with all kinds of spices and things, and they would shove it out to sea, and then they would take the statue of Isis back to where it had come from. How public was the induction into the cult of Isis? The initiation was very private. I would akin it to the vision quest of the Native American, where they had to go out and find their own way to worship Isis. Many of them believed during their induction process that they actually visited or saw the goddess Isis. Finally, here we have characters and terms that you need to know for your tests. Aristo, remember, that's our main character. That is the husband of Galatea. He wants to be a writer of tragedies, and his life is tragic, etc. The Isiasi, those were the people that, those were the group of people that followed the same religious rite as Clemens. Galatea was, of course, the crabby wife of Aristo, always getting on to him. Helena was the daughter of Aristo and Galatea, very attractive apparently, because a lot of guys were hanging around with her. Horus was the son of an Egyptian god who had been killed. The Tela, that was the inner sanctuary of a temple. Isis, that was, of course, the goddess that Clemens was worshiping, and kind of the festival centered around this, the pomp and everything. Osiris was the husband who was brought back to life by Isis. Again, that kind of goes back to why Isis is associated with life after death. Sistrum was the sacred rattle of Isis, and the Golden Ass was a novel that was written about the entrance into Isis worship. I realize that this was long, but necessary. I got you through pretty much everything that you're going to see on the test. Good luck. I hope you do well. Make sure you take notes over this thing. If you need to go back and listen to it again, take notes over it. Those will really help you when it comes to taking the test.